What's going on, family? What's going on? What's going on? How you doing? It is Tuesday, um, and I hope you guys had a great week. I had a great week. I had a great weekend. Spent some time with some friends. Was in a wedding, and that was really good. Um, Obviously, as you can see, I'm not in the where I normally am. So I do travel for work. I travel for work often, and sometimes on a Tuesday, I may not be physically in my home where I normally am, but I still feel the need to come on and just, share this content, So this is why I'm here. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Marvin Richardson Jr. I am the founder of Becoming One, where the goal is to help us to navigate relationships. And how do we do that? We become one in Him first, with us, and then for all. And so, that's kind of my little spiel for that. But tonight, I want to talk about the windows of the heart. So let's just get right into it. I won't be before you long, and I hope that this blesses you. And if feel free to leave a comment, feel free to reply if you're watching the replay. If this is some good stuff, if you're like, man, that was good, then feel free to say that. And as I'm pulling up my handy dandy tablet here, shameless plug, remarkable tablet, like, yo, you got to get one. You got to get one. If you're like me, this is a shameless plug. And they're not even paying me for this, so this is a freebie. But if you're like me and you like to deal with paper and pen, and you always have journals that you use for work, and you're just writing and writing, and then you forget that you went to a new journal and there's information from the other journal, and you're like, where did I leave that information at? With the Remarkable, you can store multiple pages, just the whole 9 yards. So, Remarkable, if you want to do a thing with me, by all means, hit me up. We can make that happen. As a construction manager, I heavily need something to document everything from when I'm working on site to when I'm just doing some notes. And so it has such a dual, multiple faceted machine. And there's so much more, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to talk about windows of the heart. And so I'm just going to get into it. So everybody knows what a window is. It's something that you look through. Like over here, literally, there's a window. I'm in my hotel room, and there's a big window next to me. It was a little bit sunnier earlier where I am right now. We actually had a tornado watch, and so now I think the tornado watch is kind of gone, and so when kind of clear. It actually got really dark about 30 minutes ago outside, almost like eclipse dark. But then um, the rain kind of passed and it started to just clear up and get sunny. So now we're in a sunset mode. And so, yeah, so now we're in sunset mode. But there's a big window there. And so, with each window, there's always a purpose. And so everybody knows what are the purposes for a window. Purpose of a window is to let light in. Um, that's a functional thing, to let natural light in, not fake light. You can't, um, I won't call it fake light, but light that is fabricated or created in a space that is used to create a visual inside of an already dark area. Natural light just does it all by itself. As the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, it just kind of comes up and then it goes all the way over and then it disappears again. Um, and so, and windows allow for that to happen. Now I'm gonna nerd out just for a quick second. Did you know that, because I used to study architecture, did you know that during the winter, well, let's start with the summer. During the summer, the sun is mostly above you in the middle of the day. So around 12 noon, the sun is always kind of above you, right? But in the winter, the sun, the shift, the way that the world shifts and the sun hits, it actually comes more on the side in the winter. So you get more light into your homes during the winter than in the summer, where you get most sun coming from above. And I think God is so interesting in that He knew that during the winter months when it was going to be cold, if you got a little bit more light into the building, into your home, it actually, one, brings light, illuminates the inside of the home, but it also warms the inside of the home. And so that direct light, even though there's cold air on the outside, the light that's coming in is not coming in with the cold. It's just the light itself. So the light going into the room is bringing a level of heat that the cold from the outside can't go inside, because you have this thin layer membrane called glass. You have glass in between that helps to keep the temperature out and keep the light rays in. If you can catch it, you can keep it. So in any case, it's windows are meant to let light in. I mean, not only that, it's transparent. So literally, as I'm looking over, I can see on the other side of the glass. So I can see on the other side of the glass, and those that may be on the opposite side can see inside of this room. And so there's a dual purpose here, multiple purposes. You can see through it. You can use it to block temperature out, depending on if you have enough pieces of glass, it'll keep certain temperatures out and it'll keep temperatures in. And so that's where insulation comes from. That's when people come knocking on your doors and they're trying to get you to spend all your money to change all your windows, because they actually know that if there's not enough insulation around the window, then air is either going to go out of the building or it's going to come into the building. And so a way that you keep a building cooled, when you have penetrations in the actual wall, those windows, if it's not properly insulated around the window, then air will go out and air will come in. And your electric bill will be high, because if you have a lot of gaps in the window, then all of that cool air from the air conditioning is going to keep running and running and running and running, because all of the cool air is going out through the cracks. So you want to make sure you're insulated. So, like I said, sorry to nerd out, but it is what it is. Windows, obviously, in some ways, they're not always just a fixed glass. Sometimes they have the ability to open from bottom to up, from left to right. They can kind of flip open. There's so many different types of windows, but the function of a window is to allow light to come in and also to let air come in. So, you have this air and it's just kind of coming in during the evening when the sun has gone down and you just want to feel a breeze. There's nothing like opening a door in one part of the house, and if you open up the window in the other part of the house, it's like the air from the outside is now drawn in, and you get to feel that wind coming in to kind of just change the temperature inside of the home. And it's great. It's just always a great feeling when you're inside of a space and you just have air just coming in. So the place where I live, I have a front door and a back door. If I open the back door and keep the front closed, air's not going to really circulate. But if I open the back window and the front door, it's going to be a pathway. It'll almost feel like a breezeway inside of the house. If you can catch, you can keep it. We're talking about matters of the heart. My name is Marvin Richardson with Becoming One, and I'm just letting you know that we're talking about windows of the heart. And so another function of a window is to allow you to see the condition of what's going on the outside, where you're having a completely different condition on the inside. And so I can look out the window and determine what the condition of the outside atmosphere is. You won't know if it's raining if you don't look through a window. You won't know if it's cold if you don't look through a window. Now, sometimes it can be a little misleading, because there have been many times that I've gone out to do my morning walks. I look out the window and I'm like, oh, it's sunny. And I step outside and it's like 20 degrees. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, it was sunny, but it's cold. Well, I had to actually throw some more clothes on because it was somewhat misleading. So the transparency of what I was seeing was not really speaking to the temperature of the atmosphere on the outside. So again, when we open up a window, we're trying to let something out or we're trying to let something in. And so oftentimes we want to let air in. If it's warm inside of the house, we'll open up the window to let the hot air out. And if we open up another door, we'll actually let more air in. So there's an exit and then there's a return. And that's helpful. When it comes to your heart, you kind of want to think of it in the same way. You want to let the things that's not quite serving you well out, so you can let some good stuff coming in. And so, interesting enough, there's a scripture in the Bible, it talks about how God will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you will not have room enough to receive. Well, what kind of blessing? I mean, blessing comes in many forms. Blessing comes through tangible things, through inspiration, through God himself touching you. Blessing comes from so many different ways. And he can open up a window, and that just speaks to that heaven has windows. It also has doors, but that's a whole other subject for a whole other live. Um, but I remember a moment where I was sitting on my front stoop, and it was a really difficult day for me. It was a very difficult day, and surprisingly enough, as I'm sitting on my stoop, and actually I had tears in my eyes because I was crying. I was sitting on my stoop, and then I looked down, and I'm looking at the grass, and it's like two big trees, and there's all of these leaves, and so I'm like, I'm looking at the floor, looking at the grass, and I'm seeing four squares together. And I was like, that's weird. How is there a shadow of light casting through trees and it almost looks like a window? I was like, I wish I could show it to you on here, but I can't because this is a live. But literally, it looked like a window was casting, beaming off of a window through the trees onto the ground. And it was going from that way coming towards me. And it was the way that the shadow casted, it casted towards me. So it wasn't bouncing off of my house. It seemed like it was just bouncing from somewhere else. It literally, the light that was coming through the trees formulated an image on the ground. And for me, I was just like, you know what? That's God. That was one of those moments where okay, that's definitely God. It couldn't be nobody but God. And so for my heart in that moment, I really needed it because my heart was hurting so much that it was almost like God was saying, yeah, and even in this, I'm still going to open up a window and pour out a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive. And there were things that happened that literally it was that. Um, And so there's nothing like being known by God because God knows you. He knows your quirks. He knows when you want to be good. He knows when you don't want to be good. He knows when you're hurting. He knows when you're happy. He knows when you're sad. He knows all these things. He knows all things. It's nothing like being known. He actually knows you. And then for you married people, it's also knowing someone and being fully known. It's like she knows you, you know her, and y'all just know each other, not just physical only, but the way that you guys interact, the way that you guys talk, the way that you guys walk with each other, the way that you guys interact in a room full of other people. You can look at each other across the room and you have a language by how you speak to each other. You know how to kind of make a little eye contact and be like, and just faces and stuff. And so, because that's what happens with the husband and wife, and with God, he does similar things in that he speaks to your spirit and that he lets you know that I see you, I'm with you, and there's a communication that's happening. And sometimes he does it through the eyes of other people. Sometimes he does it through the way that he speaks to you in his words. Sometimes he does it through experiences that you have, and it's because you're being known, and he fully knows you, but you're being known, and that's a great thing when you get to know him in him. Then when you get to know her or him, then it's not just this knowing, but it's also this knowing. As I continue to know him, then it's easier for me to continue to get to know you, because as I'm more transparent with him, then my transparency level with you can increase, and hopefully it's going both ways. I remember a preacher said in my first marriage, he says that you get closer to God, the two of you will get closer together. And I was just like, yeah, that was good. And I mean, it does work. I mean, because if you think about it, God is a manufacturer of all men. He's made us all. He's created us all. And as we choose to stay connected to him or get to know him, for those that we are engaging with, especially if you're married, as you get to know him better, God gives you the keys of how to love your spouse better. If you're dating somebody, you get closer to God, God will speak to you regarding them. Because who else are you going to get the base intel you can from God himself? And he'll teach you how to pray for a person, whether you're dating or even when you're married. You know, that connection that you have with him helps your connection that you have with them. Him first, then them. Okay. So I'm almost done. So I named this Windows of the Heart because I was just like, first the thought came to my mind, a window, and then I was like, heart. I was like, it's not really making sense. So a lot of times I say this term like the math is not math, and like I don't get it. I don't know what you're trying to say, Lord, but I get window. I get what a window is. So then I started thinking about the heart, the components of a heart. Now there are many different components. I'm not going to get into all of them, but just really briefly, when you took home when you took anatomy at school, they talked about the heart, and they talked about these four chambers, right? It's like these upper chambers and these lower chambers, and there's all these other parts that allow the heart to do what it does so that it can pump. And so looking at it, so the top part of the heart, they call it the right atrium, and then the left atrium, and the lower part of the heart is called the right ventricle and the left ventricle. Why is that important? Because there's a flow by which the heart functions inside of your physical body. And so I was like, okay, well, how does blood flow? And so, yes, I am looking at Google, I am reading, but just stay with me as it's going to all make sense. So it says blood comes into the right atrium from the body, moves into the right ventricle. So that means it starts from the upper right to the lower right, and then it's pushed through the pulmonary arteries in the lungs. After picking up oxygen, the blood travels back through the heart, through the pulmonary veins, into the left atrium, to the left ventricle. So it's coming into the body from the top, and it's going to go down, and then it's going to go to the pulmonary artery, which is going to actually capture oxygen because you've been breathing in. So you breathe in oxygen and you blow out carbon dioxide. So we breathe out carbon dioxide, and the trees, they actually breathe in carbon dioxide and they actually push out oxygen. So, I mean, I'm just saying, God made the heavens and earth, trees, and all these different things. I don't know why people think we just kind of appeared from a Big Bang theory, but okay, believe what you want to believe. But if you think about it, we're inhaling oxygen and you're breathing out carbon dioxide, but coming into the body from the right side, going down to the lungs, grabs lungs, then it comes to the left atrium, goes back down to the ventricle, and then out. So, I mean, that's a powerful thing. So there's a flow of going up, down, inward, back up, down, and outward. And the purpose is to, it has to get oxygen because your heart is pumping blood throughout your whole body. So if your heart does not pump blood from your lungs, it can't give oxygen to the rest of your body. If you don't have oxygen in the rest of your body, you're about to be dead. I'm just saying. Like, if you lose air, you lose air. So if you're thinking about up, down, left, right. So a lot of windows in homes kind of have that similar frame. There's a upper part of the window, there's a bottom part of the window. You can lift the bottom part and lower it and raise it up to let air in. You get it? Are you following me? I mean, like, this is good to me, but just think about it. You lift up your window to open it, to let air in, to circulate inside of the home. And what is your home? Your home is your physical body. So God kind of stitched this and made all of this all work together so that you can even see him in that. He won't just open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. He will open up a window to bring some air to your heart. So the question for you tonight is, are you deficient of air in your heart? I have been deficient of air in my heart. I have been deficient of needing a blessing to kind of flow, because sometimes your heart can get hardened. Sometimes your heart can get darkened. Sometimes your heart is experiencing things and it gets a little calloused. When the heart gets calloused, it's just, when it gets hard and it's just not, it won't even move. So it's supposed to be like boom, 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 boom. But when it gets hard and it's like boom, 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 boom. It may want to pump, but maybe it won't. Like, if it stops pumping, you're about to be dead. But when your heart gets hardened from a relationship standpoint, then that means that there's a flow that's no longer happening. So whatever was happening on the outside, oh my God, whatever's happening on the outside in the relationship affects the heart. So if the atmosphere in the relationship is working well, then what's flowing through the heart, capturing more air from the lungs to other parts of the body, it's just not going to flow. And so whose job is it to make sure that the atmosphere of the relationship is flowing with the proper air? Well, the both of you. The both of you have to choose to make the flow of the relationship and to make the air in the space good and not funky. Like, some of you husbands, you get home and what do? You're testing the air. Depending upon how your wife responds, you'll know, oh boy, she's either in a good mood. If you get home, she goes, hey, baby. You like, okay, things are good. But if you get home and she's just like, hey, then you like, what's going on? You can feel it in the air. I can feel it in the air tonight. Anyway, you can feel it in the air. And sometimes if you can sense it in the air, then I would say check what's going on with the heart. Because if the air is funky, the heart is going to be funky. And if the heart starts to get funky, if it's starting to breathe in the wrong type of air, then it's going to actually contaminate the heart. It says, out of the abundance of a heart, the mouth speaks, right? Me included. If I'm having a hard moment and something gets here, then it's going to affect who actually, how a person experiences me. So husbands and wives, you can ask yourself, how is my husband or my wife experiencing me? What experience am I giving them that's going to eventually affect how their heart is experiencing? Now, the Bible talks about guard your heart, because for out of it, everything flows. That is the part that we are responsible for. But if you think about the windows, just thinking about the window of your heart, maybe you just need to open up the window. Maybe you need to open up the window and let God breathe some new air into your heart. Because sometimes the air that you breathing in is not the air that you need. It's his air. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. And I wrote here, your heart needs air. It does. Let it get the air that it needs. Take a walk. Literally go. I mean, if it was sunny, I'd probably go and take a walk. I take walks often, about at least 3 miles. And sometimes breathing in that air just helps. And then let the sun kind of, fall on you a little bit. Get a little bit of vitamin D for the sun. You know what I'm saying? Get some air in your physical body, but let's also let some air come into your spirit. Because as you do that, you will give somebody else a better experience. And if your air is funky, then you're going to make the air funky. So let's get rid of the funky breath, funky hot air, and get some cooler air so that when you breathe, it'd be like, you know what? That was a pleasant breeze. Can you be a pleasant breeze for somebody tonight? Can you be a pleasant breeze for your children, for your husband, for your wife? Let's do that. In him, with us, for all. God bless you. Good night.